Welcome to the Right Here, Right Now Honduras platform. Today we are going to speak about the right to choose. This is a concept that is truly an array of things. We would have to speak about how we choose to dress. What do we want to wear? What sexual orientation do we want to follow? Who do we want to vote for? Do we want to have children or not? So we are going to speak about this topic, which is a very broad one, with three experts about this topic, which is the right to choose. In our panel, we have Sandy Arteaga. She works for the Secretariat of Youth of the Right Here, Right Now platform in Honduras, and she has been working here since 2019. She is a focal point for the center area of the country. She studies the bachelor's degree of philosophy in the National Autonomous University of Honduras. She has been trained on the Political Feminist School of the Women's Rights Center in 2018. She's an activist for SRHR, women's rights, and LGBT rights within the human rights. In this panel, we also have Ligia Maria de Stefan. She has a bachelor's degree in psychology. She's a master's in health for adolescents. She is the coordinator of the women's axis of the Right Here, Right Now platform in Honduras. And since September 2017, through the study centers of women in Honduras, she has also participated in all of these topics. We also have Gaby Flores. She studies the bachelor's degrees in social anthropology, which is not very usual for youth right now. She is also a feminist. She's a student militant and an activist in the Libre political party, which is Freedom and Refounding. She has been trained on SRHR, on feminism, and she was part of the 2020 campaign for the right to choose of the Right Here, Right Now platform in Honduras, in the platform with the same name. We are going to speak about this then, which is very interesting. The right to choose. The right to choose even what color to wear when we are girls. Blue or pink. Usually our mothers put us pink clothes, but in my case, I like blue better. But I imagine when I was a little girl, I used to wear a pink. So what does the right to choose is about? The right to choose is within the sexual reproductive health and rights, which includes, as you said, an array of possibilities. For instance, the right to who I want to have a sexual relationship with, if I want to be a mother or not, what sexual partner I want to get involved with emotionally, and also about being linked to the other rights that are foundational within our sexual reproductive health and rights. So what are these foundational rights? Let's ask Ligia about this. So I would like to add that the right to choose, or sexual and reproductive health and rights, guarantee the right to choose. So if we don't have a sexual and reproductive health and right guaranteed, we don't have the possibility to make decisions. If we don't have access to information, to CSE, we are not going to be able to make a decision because they are limiting our options. So if I have my options limited, I won't have the right to choose. I just have to follow a protocol. So in reality, the right to choose is something that is very deep, that is within our bodies. We can decide in all the aspects of our lives, but the right to choose has that connotation of autonomy, of auto-determination, and for us not to be judged for our decisions. It's not the fact that I'm going to make a decision, but the consequences of that decision. So we are at a place where there are prejudices, where I can go to jail for my decisions. So I am having that right cut off. So Ligia, let's start from the childhood. When your father or the father doesn't allow you to decide, your mother or your father doesn't allow you to decide in several aspects of life. Like in the case of, I will tell you about an experience. But I was with my best friend's boy, son, and she said that she would change him from school. And he said yes, immediately. But I first want to know the school to see if I want to change. And we were all like, quiet, silent, and said, wow, he wants to decide, or he wants to choose. So how can we make children make those decisions from the beginning? One thing that we have to keep in mind is that in the Convention of the Child's Rights is the progressive autonomy. It is true, a boy or girl needs direction, needs guidance, and needs information. So in this case, for instance, the example that you just mentioned, he is asking for information about the school. So that's what we want to give the children according to their age. Obviously, there are topics that we cannot address with a 3-year-old boy or girl that they ask about, right? And that when they ask is when we give the information. And as a parent, how does this work? This is how it should work. We give the information when they ask, and obviously parents, fathers, mothers should be more experienced and want to seek for their well-being, right, and their best interest. But the children deserve an explanation. We have to explain our yeses and our nos. What does it mean for a child, or what does it include? What do you mean? When they're starting making their decisions, how does it influence in their future? Oh, so they become more determined, they're more autonomous, they are people who are not going to guide themselves on what other people say to steer their lives. And what we want with the right to choose is for children to be happy. So a person who can make decisions on their own is going to be a happy person. And obviously, they will assume the responsibilities of those decisions as well. So that's psychologically, right? But it's hard for us to make decisions because we always stay in our comfort side, right? And we're going to see this later on as well. We're going to allow Gabi to speak because I can see Gabi is a warrior. She is young. She is inside a political party that looks for the rights of people. So can you tell us a little bit how does this influence a girl in a political party? So to start off, I would like to speak about the right to choose overall. The right to choose is a primordial attribute for society. It makes us question ourselves, choose, and make our own decisions. Being in organizational spaces, it influences the entire process that we have had in terms of information of the right to choose that we have. Okay, Ligia, so now we are going to talk about some experience that you have in about the right to choose, or maybe you know someone that hasn't been able to make decisions or been able to choose. There are intense experiences that mark people. Well, I have a lot of cases, and as a psychologist, I have known that most of the issues that adolescents face and youth face have to do with aspects of their sexuality, of feeling repressed when they have to make a decision. Like a boy that likes another boy, or a woman who was a victim of sexual abuse, or a pregnant woman that doesn't want to be pregnant, and even they want to commit suicide. They are depressed or anxious. But I would like to speak about one of the rights that becomes more controversial, and it shouldn't be, but because of the culture that we are in, it is the right to choose if I want to become a mother or not. And I would like to speak specifically about the right of women to abortion. So I know several cases of women who have submitted themselves to abortions under conditions of insecurity because the country prohibits an abortion. But when a woman doesn't want to become a mother for several reasons, they look for the way to commit that abortion. So there are many cases and experiences about that. And I guess many of them are very sad, right? Because we are not talking that about the unborn child, but about the person, how they feel, how they are going through that situation. In the case of being or not a mother, that's something that you get pointed out. I am a woman, and I don't have children, and I am not planning on having any children, and I have been pointed at. Why do you think that way? Everyone has their own life philosophy. Let's talk about that life philosophy. Maybe you can help me out since you have been in this area. As I was telling my colleagues, the right to choose implies duties, right, and rights. Because in Honduras' legal framework, like abortion is criminalized. But within this legal framework that we have, we are not looking for the social well-being, because I could be a woman that maybe doesn't have the economic conditions or the social conditions, and I can go through a process where I have to make a decision that is going to mark a precedent in my life. So at that moment, and as my partner Gavi can explain, in anthropology, we can see how different social conditions are, and specifically culturally. For instance, Honduras is a country that is highly chauvinistic. At the Latin American level, we are one of the countries that is most dangerous to be a woman. High mortality rates for mothers that are very high. Pregnant girls, we are on the top countries, and that is very shameful in Latin America, because Honduras is one of the countries that most girls are pregnant. This has to do with different mindsets, and philosophy addresses this as well. And also we have to see how society makes progress. For instance, we are not in the same Honduras as 10 years ago. Yes, it has changed. And with this phenomenon, like the Hurricane Eta, we are seeing how all these girls in shelters, they are being sexually abused. So where is their right to choose? Because they cannot say, I don't want to be raped, for instance. But these people are putting themselves over the rights of these girls and are violating their rights, the rights of these girls. And even there, we can see the right to choose. And another factor that we have in Honduras is that we do not have the emergency contraceptive pill, which is a right to choose as well. Because inside the rights to choose, we have which contraceptive I want to use. And as Ligia was saying, with prior advice, because we have to be aware that we have the duty of taking care of our own body, and the right to choose has to do with self-care and self-acknowledgement. That is why it is important to include them within the sexual reproductive rights, because there are others that come from that, and if not, we couldn't be able to do it. Gavi, why do you think this topic of the right to choose, specifically for women, why is it so controversial? So we have been raised in a chauvinistic society where women has a role of obeying what is established. And when a woman starts empowering themselves, they are like in the middle of everything. And when things are not imposed, it's different. Since we are little girls, they are creating a path for us. You have to dress in pink. You have to do house chores and taking care of the household, and that implies living in a chauvinistic society. And when we become women, we start having information about the right to choose, and we work on our empowerment or becoming independent. But we are also victims of discrimination and whatnot. And oftentimes we exceed the knowledge of men as well, and that puts us at cases where are not very good, right? And also in terms of achievements or the work through the platform, what are you doing, Ligia? The platform of Right Here, Right Now through the Women's Access has been conducting different actions to contribute to the debate for the decriminalization of abortion and to derogate an agreement. How are you doing in that? So what we have achieved is to, or we have contributed for this topic to be talked about more. There are other platforms, the feminist organizations and groups for many years have been fighting for this right. And as the platform, we have carried out different raising awareness campaigns, information campaigns. We have also built capacities on young women on this topic. We have made studies. We have contributed to give information, to have a debate on this topic. But at the decision makers level, as you said before, this is a topic that is controversial. This is a topic that is considered very sensitive. Even the ones that are in favor don't want to come out in public to talk about it. They are afraid, right? Yes. And specifically, if they are after a political position, yes, because they don't want to commit their voters. They don't want to talk about these topics, and also because of church. The church influences a lot in the decision making in the country. Sandy, what has been achieved through demonstrations? I know that you go to the Congress to make demonstrations, and you have had some conflicts. Through the local media, we have been able to see those kinds of situations. What have you achieved? How are you called? How have you been named? Your decision is there, making a request, and it is not respected. It is very interesting because sometimes I have compared the demonstrations for women and for the social movements overall. When you see a group only of women who are there by themselves together, sometimes for me, the demonstrations that the feminist group does are very pretty because there's a difference, like when we are singing, when we are dancing or celebrating, because that's the way in which we try to fight for these rights in a positive way. And we want to create that in the imaginarium of Honduran society, because all of us, our way in which we want to fight for our rights is through the media, is through lobbying and trying to position this topic publicly. Because something that happened with the green wave in Argentina in 2018 is something that I will never forget. When I heard the phrase, abortion came out of the closet and it is not going back, because it was a topic that was in the closet. It was a taboo. But when you bring it out to the public stage, it's not private anymore, and any women who could have gone through it. And I remember that song that was born in Chile from women that came out last year, and then men started to mock. They brought memes and started laughing about that song, where we saw women who were demanding their right to choose. And that's the only thing they were looking for. They were not talking about any more deeper topics. What do you think about those kinds of campaigns, or the campaigns where we can see a lot of women who get naked? What do you think about that? Yes, that song has become an anthem worldwide. It's called A Rapist in Your Path. And it was incredible how many attacks came from that, because it's clear that raping is not good. It's bad, right? But it seems like it wouldn't be like that. And it seems like women cannot say that they don't want to be raped. There's no justification. And that's what this song wants to do and wants to say. And we're not only making responsible the rapist, but also the state that has a lot of impunity. We are in a country that over 90% of the cases are not solved. Women don't want to report that because nothing happens. They go through months and months of questions, of testing, and nothing happens. The penal code decreased the penalties, and even for abortion in case of sexual violence. It is more likely that a woman who aborts because of a sexual violence goes to jail for a longer time than the rapist. They are penalized double, right? Because they have gone through a rape, she didn't want to have sexual intercourse, and then the state or the government condemns her for aborting, and there's a double trauma, and there's one more trauma. The media makes these women who abort visible. I don't know if you have seen that they put the face of the woman and they put it on the media, and everyone starts judging her, criticizing there, but they cover the face of the person who hit a woman. And if they are sent to sweep the streets, that's humiliating for a man. That's what I have heard. Well, I have heard said that it's a double humiliation because they condemn them and then they just send them to the street to sweep. But well, now we're going to speak with Gaby. You are in this platform, you are working. What is your function? What have you achieved? What is your experience? As a young woman, the platform is in charge of planting that seed, but not only planting it, but making it grow. I think that I have a lot of very good experiences. It is a space where we are trained as people. Youth are not only the future, we are also the present. We are agents of change in society and for progress. So the platform is very essential in our growth as youth, to integrate ourselves into society. I am very happy with them. I think they make a great role. And the best thing is that they get involved with youth. They not only comply with the work as platform, but they make us feel like a family. And that is essential for us to feel comfortable in working on these topics. Sandy, choosing our sexuality, that is a taboo. Yes, I think that most of all, we don't choose. It's not like, for instance, I'm 15 years old and I'm choosing. No, I choose the moment where I want to express it. For instance, the people don't have a certain age and say, I want to be gay or lesbian. We are born this way. And there's a point when we define it because we start making decisions. So what happens if I am taken that right to choose from me? If I am not allowed to dress how I want to, if I am not allowed to have the partner that I want, doesn't matter in my case if it's a woman or a man. So those kinds of things add up to a lot of emotional charge for the future of this person that affects them. So if you have a lot of people affected in Honduras, we're not going to have a functional society. And these oppressed groups want to, first of all, position themselves publicly, fight for their rights, because all of the people are humans. We all come from the same natural origin. And in societies, there are always groups that are hidden, that are in the closet, like we said popularly, and they come out. And that's not only win-win for them, but for the entire society, because there's more freedom, there's more acceptance, there's more guarantee of rights. There's a more functional society. Ligia, in the case of getting out of the closet or being out of the closet, what does that mean? Of repressing themselves all the time without getting out of the closet? Well, it's society. People say, no, there are more gays or lesbians. No. In the past, there were the same amount, but they didn't come out. Can we use that expression of getting out of the closet or coming out of the closet? Well, it depends on the connotation for each person, because sometimes popularly we use it just to know what we are talking about. But there are people who use it in a negative way. So it depends on the context where we are. I wanted to add to this that all of these aspects that we were talking about, about sexuality, sexual orientation, the right to choose, have so much taboo because it goes against the mandate of reproduction. So since I'm going to have sexual relationships with a woman, I won't reproduce myself, or a man with men won't reproduce themselves, or using contraception or masturbating. All of those things are against this mandate, and we are told that people come to reproduce, that women have to be mothers, and due to our biological conditions, we have to be mothers, and if not, we are not women. And in countries, even having pleasure is bad, and we cannot say it, and we are repressed. So yes, everything that is linked to sexuality that doesn't have the ultimate goal of having a boy or a girl is censored, and is not good. And we are banned for wanting to have pleasure. And we have been fighting for the decriminalization of abortion on some grounds. And they say, okay, if she was raped, it's okay. If there's a likelihood of dying, yes. If the fetus has an inability, it's not a disability, but they will not survive. So yes, that is another ground. But if it's something else, no. So why some yes and some no? Because sexuality of women comes into play beyond the right to life that is so much talked about. The thing that makes people uncomfortable is the sexuality of women, and some other topics come into play as well. But what I wanted to say is that we get censored because it is not linked to reproduction. Okay, do you believe that through the experience that you have had working or fighting for this right, do you think you're going to be able to get abortion legalized? Yes. In what term? Small, medium, long term? I think it's going to be long term. Well, I would say maybe medium or long term, and that is why we have to continue talking about this. I know there's a lot of people who are watching this and saying, how is it possible you're talking about this? But just bringing this out in the open is important. There's a phrase that I like that says that if we don't know anyone that hasn't had an abortion, it's because they have entrusted us. But women have had abortions forever. Just as pregnancy happens naturally, abortion happens the same way. So there's going to come a time where we're going to have decision makers that will care about the women, that will care about the women who are dying because of unsafe abortions, or girls that are dying at labor because their bodies weren't ready, who will legislate in favor of the rights of women at some point. Maybe it's not going to be next year, but we are going to, or maybe not the next legislation either, no. But we were able to achieve it. Based on your youth, tell me your experience. What does it mean to choose with parents now in the 21st century? I think that I was very lucky with the parents I got because they have always been very open-minded and have supported me in all of these issues of the organizational spaces. But when I was 15 years old, I was underage, and they were very conservative. And when I questioned them, they would reprimand me. Have you talked to them about abortion at some point? Yes, these are topics that are on the table. Abortion, sex, relationships. Are they Christian at home? No, they aren't. But they were very conservative when I was an adolescent. But I started questioning a lot of things, and I talked to them because we were open to talk. So I think that is very important for youth to talk. And then I started the university, and then my analysis was more extensive. And that's how I started to get training. And then I shared with them. So it was our circle of talking, exchanging, sharing my point of view as a youth, and they as a mother and father. So I think I am very lucky that my parents are not the traditional or conservative parents. And what about your case, in your groups of friends or students? My case is strange because I have a mother who is deaf. She's a deaf person, and since I was very young, it was hard to speak about sex because in sign language, these words don't exist. So I was self-taught, and every time I wanted to learn about sexuality, I think I was very privileged of having access to internet, to books, etc. And also, even though I was said no, that no to me would not mean a thing. I did whatever I want, or I still do whatever I want. So I have that life philosophy that I think that you limit yourself. So when I started to get interested in that topic, it was when I was 13 years old, and I was for 6 years in a Catholic school. And once in the psychology class, the rubric was very authoritarian because aside that it came from a Catholic school, the teacher was a nun. So she was teaching us that abortion was a sin, obviously because of the rubric of my school. So at my 16 years, she asked me in front of the class, and I will never forget this. And even though I was against her, I am very respectful, and I will respect them even though they have different thoughts. So she asked me, Sandy, what would you do if you were pregnant at 16? And I said, I would have an abortion, I said. And she started saying, it's wrong, it's wrong. And then I said, but do I have the conditions? Physically, economically, mentally to have a child? It's not a game to have a child. My dream is to be a mom because despite all of the knowledge that I have, it is my decision, and I do want to have a family. It doesn't matter what type of family, because we have to talk about the families as well, because a diverse couple can also have a child. And this has become a popular topic because my family was very Catholic. I complied with all of the requirements in the Catholic Church, all of the steps for consecration, and I have a godmother who is my tutor in life. She's like my second mom. Well, I have a lot of mothers because aside from my mom who was deaf, I have a lot of aunts, a grandma, and I didn't have a father. So those experiences leave a print in your life. My life has been filled with a lot of women. So we were at the room one time talking about abortion, and they were judging me, saying that I would expose myself publicly, going to demonstrations on the TV, giving interviews, and you don't know if sometime your life could be at risk. So afterwards, the topic became softer, and then they started talking about experiences, and I was in awe of those experiences because I never thought that in their condition, my aunts in their condition of being religious would tell me about these experiences. And in fact, being in this platform and having information about this topic has allowed me to open up to my families. Because the family is the first place where you learn. And if there are so many taboos, then people don't open up to you. That is why it is important for me as a human rights defender, an advocate, and SRHR, and I emphasize on that, for people to know that this is a very important, necessary topic in society. It is not for the worse, it is for the better. There was a time where I believed faithfully in religion. I have my religious path. I'm not a Catholic, but that doesn't limit people to make their decisions, because at the end of the day, the right to choose is a political right. It is a public right. It has to be within the laws of a state. I will ask a question to all three of you, and please answer briefly. What is the dream of each one of you? Let's start with Gabi. I think my dream as a woman is be independent, autonomous in the spaces and places where I can develop without the fear of being stigmatized when questioning what is established to us. I think being free to speak, to choose, and decide. I have a lot of dreams. But I can say in this line specifically that I have the dream of preventing and helping women who have been sexually abused to recover their autonomy. So my dream or my lifeline is that. But I have a lot of dreams. My dream, first of all, is research. To leave a print in my country and for the people to read the things I write overall, to change Honduran awareness. I have a phrase that I like. that it says, make roots for Honduran awareness overall. I dream of being one of the legislators that when abortion is approved, I will be the one signing that document for approval. I dream about having a daughter and for her to have the rights that I couldn't have as a young woman. Why do you feel this way? Because I have heard, I have very close people that for not having the right to choose, they lose their life. And I think it is very hard as a woman seeing someone that dies because the legislators for the Honduran people weren't able to help her. Do you know a specific case about this? In the CDM, in the Women's Studies Center, there was an artistic expo in the Boca Loba coffee bar when I came in and read a lot of cases. And there was one particularly that touched my heart. And it was precisely on the year that I started as an activist. So I said, I will fight for those people that have their rights violated every day. And the pain of seeing how people, because they come from a vulnerable group, are not respected, are not considered, are violated in their rights every day. In Honduras, that is a day-to-day fight. There's a lot of resistance, and you feel the pain in your soul to see not only women, but also children that have to go through vulnerable conditions because the state cannot provide these conditions and they don't respect the rights of women. And that motivates me to continue till the day I die, to continue fighting for rights. As a psychologist, you know this. How long does it take for the sperm to get to the egg? It can happen in the first 3 days. So if you have the ECP, you're not killing anyone, right? No. If you have it, because it can have it 30 minutes after sex. It depends on the ovulation period, or 2 days before, 14 days, right? 2 days before and 2 days later. Yes. So if the fecundation has happened, then ECP won't do anything. And since we mentioned this topic, it's important to clarify that talking about ECP is different, right? Because the lack of information, people say that ECP is for abortion, but the Plan B or ECP is an emergency contraception. And when we're talking about abortion, we are talking about interrupting a pregnancy. But these are two different fights, two different things. We do not have ECP, and I hope that we can attain it, but we don't have decriminalized abortion either. And we know that undesired pregnancy or pregnancy in girls and adolescents are multi-causal issues, and abortion is not going to solve this. It's just one of the options that women should have. As we have the option, if we want to be mothers, and it would be better to have a planned maternity with a desired child, to have all of the love, all of the affection, because it was a planned pregnancy and a desired pregnancy. And we are in favor of any decision that the women could take. And just to wrap up, any advice for the youngest that identify with you and your thoughts? Get information, get informed. That it's very complicated to get it, but you should get information. Most, if you have internet, get information on how to use contraception. And since we're talking about the right to choose, it is something that is very personal to know who you will be with, how will you take care of yourself, and how to do it. As Sandy was saying, they have that information, and that is why it doesn't get to us because information is retained, and that's when all of these things happen. Unwanted pregnancies because we don't know how to use contraception. We interrupt coitus as contraception because of the lack of information, but that could create a pregnancy as well. So get informed, look for information, break that taboo of not talking about contraception and sexuality. We are youth. We're going to have sex. It is a biological need. If we don't want to have pregnant adolescents, then it is the responsibility of the parents to speak about this topic at home. Sandy, Ligia, Gabi, thank you for being in this platform. Thank you for fighting for those that cannot raise their voice. And once again, the Right Here, Right Now Honduras platform is for us to know ourselves, to be able to decide, and I hope that the people can respect each person's philosophy. Thank you.